today we're going to be doing a design like this. It's not really complicated, even though it has this kind of crossover, so I don't want you guys to be too afraid. So let's get started. Any questions up until now? I don't know if you guys could tell, but I kind of sped through all that. That way I can finally get into rendering, so stay tuned for rendering. All right. So every ring, right, needs a ring rail. You can select ring rail under the tools command, and it'll populate a finger size. Here, I just choose whatever finger size the customer would be. Say they're a quarter, and right click. So now I have a ring rail in my viewport. The next thing we need to do is profile place. So the way CAD software works, you have a line or a curve. In this case, we'll call it a rail. Then you have a shape profile, which will be ran along that rail and create the solid. So the finger rail is going to be my rail in this case. And here I have a profile. So the way the software works, it will take this profile and move it around the finger rail multiple times to create a solid. And I can view that by toggling my activate auto sweep. So you can see this is what I was talking about. It takes this profile and rotates it around the finger rail to create a solid. Now we need to do adjustments to this, right? So let's bring them down here and let's choose a different profile. So this little profile icon you can select and it will open up our profile library. You could also select it from here. Also a quick disclaimer, I tend to use the viewport handles. You can also use the dynamic commands panel by adjusting it like this. I just find it easier to work inside the viewport, but to each their own. So let's get the dimensions that we need. So let's go 1.8 thick and 1.8 wide. So now I essentially have a simple band, right? Now, the whole way to model in MatrixGold is to kind of plan ahead, right? So whenever I look at this, I have a split right here, right? So I need to plan ahead. So what I'm going to do is put a profile right here, even though I'm not changing anything about it. Okay, I can mirror that by selecting the mirror profile toggle right here, just so it'll be equal. And then looking back at this, it has this sort of bypass, but it meets in the middle up here, right? So the easiest way to do that is to add a profile here. And I can pull it out this way. But when I pull it out this way, you see it only does one side. Well, I need to take this profile and move it essentially over here. So I can turn mirror profile, which will just go straight across, and then rotate mirror. And you can see it'll give me that nice little, I guess, S shape that the ring has. Now, it's a little bit too far, so let's close it a bit. Let's go back to perspective so we can see. But yeah, this is used to create matching bands super easy with this activate auto sweep. You can import your engagement, build around a ring rail, and just auto sweep it, and then place profiles to see, you know, what contours you need on that engagement. So let's go to the top because I adjusted it. So that is essentially done, right? So the base band is done. Now I need to put my stone in head, because that will determine how this sweep, which will be this sweep, will meet, right? So let's select our ring rail, and I'm going to go to gems and gem on ring rail. So you can see this puts it exactly at the top position. If it doesn't, I can use the location ball to move it around and adjust. Let's go down to about a 5, maybe a 4.5. Let's pull the height down a bit. Maybe off center it a tad. Let's angle it to where the table is straight with the tilt. And now I need to get it off of my center line or my ring rail, right? You see, if you can imagine, the ring rail comes like right here. So I need to move it off. Now, the way to do that would be come to offset right here and just drag it ever so slightly. Maybe pick it up a tad. Trying to imagine it. If this is your first time, I apologize. I am a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to modeling, so just bear with me. So that should be pretty good. All right. So now that I have my gem, I can do what is called a head builder. So under settings, I select head, and you see it creates a head for me. Now I can use the viewport handles to adjust. Let's reduce the rail count to 1, so it'll put the rail at the bottom. Let's pull this down. I can adjust the profile of the rail. There we go. So up at the top of my dynamic command, I have level 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know it's hard to see, but the bright pink is going to be what each level controls. So level 3 is highlighted 1 prong, so you'll be able to select 1 prong and go through and adjust. I need level 2 because I want to do a couple of different things. So I want to create that set kind of look. So let's take the dome, extrude it, and pull it on top of my stone. Let's further adjust here. Change my profile. Give it some claw, and once I'm satisfied, I can right click. There we go. So now I need to put a gallery rail. Let's select gallery rail and use the viewport handles to adjust. There we go, and I can right click. Okay, so here is where we need to get creative, right? We need to, if I go to top view, come from this profile, have it come opposite of this into this head, right? So the easiest way, being that this is already on my center ring rail or center line, if I go from a top view, I can simply duplicate this edge. So any edge you can duplicate. Under curves, you have duplicate edge. Selecting that, I will select the edge I want to duplicate and right click, and now I have a curve. So with this curve, I can take it, go from a top view, and mirror across that center line. Okay, so let's right click. So if I hide this, you will see I have this newly created curve that I will color red. So the issue is it is not meeting my head like the image does. So the easiest way to get that to meet is to blend curves. So here I can extract an iso curve. So an iso curve, if I click, you see all these little brep edges. I can pull one out and make it a curve. So right here, extract iso curve from surface, select my gallery rail and move it north and south. So this will be where it meets. Let's put it in the center. Close enough. Right click, and now you can see it. Okay, so now I need to blend this curve and the curve we just created. So under curve, blend curve, let's select this one and that one. Then I can pull it up like so. So this will kind of give you more of an arc. You can use the viewport handles a bit. The further down I go, the more it will open up. But also the more I need to increase the blend amount. Do something like that. And right here, if I toggle join curve, you can see it puts a nice curve for me. Told you guys I was a perfectionist. So let's go front view to make sure. So I need to come up just a tad more. That should be good enough. Make sure it blends nicely. And if I right click, I now have a curve right here. If I bring everything back, we can see it. Okay, so now I just need to profile place here. So under Tools, Profile Plates. Let's edit this, reduce the size, pull them out just a tad. Let's change the shape. Number 3. Make him a little bit taller, a little bit wider. Let's put one here just for control purposes. And once we're satisfied, we can right click. So now I have one here, and one there. So we need to sweep it. So sweep 1, select the profiles in order, right click. There we go. So you can kind of see the shape starting to take hold. Next, we just need some stones right here. So I can extract an isocurve just like I did right here, except I can extract it from the top. So let's go to Curve, extract isocurve. Let's make sure it is at 0.5 right here, which is half of my surface, and right click. I can then take that curve, run a gem on curve, and it will give me some stones on top of that surface. Now, currently, the culettes of all the stones are pointing at my origin. I need to point them at my surface. So up here, hit Target Object and click my surface. Now they are flush with the surface, and I can choose a stone size that I want. Bring it down into the metal. Go to wireframe so we can see. And once we're satisfied, we can right click. So the next thing we need to do is a Boolean. So under cutters, I have a channel cut. So here we can do 1.2. Let's extend to make room for our prongs. Let's raise the height. Let's go up, make sure we have the shape that we want. Go to wireframe, make sure you have enough for your setter to drill to secure that culet. And let's go down a bit right here. And once I right click, I have that cutter. So now we need to do what's called a Boolean. So a Boolean is a deduction. So if I select Boolean difference, I can select my surface, right click, select my cutter and right click. And you can see the Boolean deducts from that crossover. So the next thing we need to do is just secure these stones. Under settings, I have prong placer. So I can use these to adjust if I don't like it, but generally it's pretty good. And once I'm satisfied, just right click, and there we go. So this model is completely parametric. Let's say the customer wants to edit the stone count, right? I can come here, edit these, pull them further up, and the software will automatically calculate and adapt to that input. Okay, let's say she wants less of an opening right here. If I edit this and pull it in just a tad, you can see it automatically edits that. And likewise, if she wants bigger, she can do that as well. I could also adjust the finger size, pretty much everything else, because we built it using nothing but parametric commands, so it's all adjustable. Even the big stone. So let's edit. See how this automatically adapts. Okay, so let's do a quick rendering before we run out of time. So with our render engine, one thing to consider, technology has come so far, right, that the rendering inside the software is like real life. Okay, I say that meaning, let's say I have hypothetically a clear glass bottle, right? Which will reference my stone. So let's say I put some dark liquid or shiny liquid inside of that bottle and shine a sun or a light of some type on it. That bottle will reflect, but it'll also be dull inside because of that liquid. The same is true for ray tracing engines. So they have taken refraction laws, particle physics laws, all into consideration when building render engines. It's truly crazy. So with that being said, this right here, this prong is intersecting my stone. So whenever the pixel or photon inside my metaphorical render room gets bounced around, right? That's kind of how ray tracing tech works. There's a camera that follows a pixel around the room. Everywhere it hits, it sends information back to the camera. So let's say that pixel comes into this gem and starts bouncing around. It is going to send back information right here, right here, right here, and right here that there's something intersecting it, and thus it will not refract the same way if nothing intersects. So that's a long way of saying we need to Boolean our gems. So if I come here to cutters, gem cuts, I have this. I can select the kebab menu up top, go to styles, and let's choose number 2. Go to wireframe. So I just need to Boolean anything that touches my gems. So once I have my gem cutters like I want, just right click, So now I can go to solids and Boolean. Let's do this and this. Right click, select my gem cutters. So you can see it cut away. Let's right click. Let's change this to green. And we should be good to go. Let's see if this one intersects. It does. So let me just bring back my stones. So under dynamic commands, I can select gem cutters, show them again. It'll bring all of my cutters back. And just Boolean this one with those. And right click. See the little divot? So we're good to go. All right, so now we can start our render, right? Let's hit the render studio. You can find it up here under render. Click this and this will populate. So depending on what style I choose, I can hit the drop down and come down here. There's tons of styles, and you can apply it with this. A good way to kind of see what the render will look like is to hit the arrow on the side of the view and come to Raytrace. Now this will give you a render preview, if you will, of what it will look like. So I can come down here and choose so let's choose our metal. Let's go to 14K yellow. So it's a little dark still, so I want to add a light. So up here under the render, I have light. If I hit the drop down, I have spotlight, directional light, which I will select. So let's take this, bring him up, angle him at the center stone. If you see this right here, that's the light. You can see as I move it. That should be good. I can always come here to properties, which will open up my properties for the render engine, and I can toggle my sun on. If I don't want that skylight to be as bright, I can hit OK. Let's stage it a bit. Now let's change our gem color. I think this one was a pink diamond. Add material. Let's select our other stones and make them a diamond. And then we can go down to ground plane. As you can see, there's already a ground plane. I'm a big fan of the shiny car paint. So if we go down to the S, this may actually already be, but let's hit add to object. We choose our resolution that we want. The number of passes, I will do 250. And let's do a quick render. It'll take a second, it'll calculate everything, and then it will produce a render for us. So the way this render engine works, instead of applying an image to an object like V-Ray did, it essentially assigns a layer material to an object with a certain color, reflectiveness, a bunch of different attributes. And then it sends that pixel around. Everywhere it bumps, it sends information back to the camera. So it does that in a set of passes. At the bottom left, right here, you can see it is path tracing, and it's on 40 of 250. Now you can see this right here is an amazing render, and as it progresses, it will get better and better and better, almost lifelike. And because of the resolution I chose, I can zoom into it without it pixelating. Now look at this right here at the reflection. And like I said, this is the Smithy style, and I just kind of adjusted the ground plane, added a light, stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty close. I actually think this one's much better, to be honest. So we're about halfway done. You can see it's 2 minutes, so it'll probably take 4 minutes, which for a high class render, that is really good. The diamonds in my render look darker than they should. So were you here whenever I went over like how to adjust in Boolean the gems? So anytime something like goes into the diamond or takes part of that diamond like metal, it'll refract back to the camera differently. So you need to Boolean at 102, 105% away from your prongs and your metal, and you should get bright images. You can also add lights like I just did, and that would brighten you up. So this one is almost done. Were you able to do a Euro shank with Cathedral Ring World? We are. All right, so we are done here. So you can see the reflection and stuff like that. I mean, that's a pretty high class render. There's also post effects that you can put on the render. I like the depth of field, so if I turn that on and double click, it will run its process. Now what this will do, it will allow blur the whole picture, right? But it'll allow me to choose a distance in the render, and it will bring this to life and blur the rest. Kind of like if you focus at a certain point, right? Or let's say I focus on my ring, my peripheral is blurry. So it'll actually do that for you. Now, what this is cool for is, let's say you have a ring that's laying down or something like that. You're able to, like, let's say it's laying down, it's going to break history like this. don't need you to render it. Yeah, so if you guys know Spanish, please join next week. If not, I will see you the week after. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And thanks for joining.